Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by T&K Hunting Gear. If you haven't heard about T&K, then it's about time you do. I've been using T&K gear out in the field and on hunts and have fallen in love with their stuff. T&K is veteran-owned and 100% made in America using only American-made products. All their gear is covered under a lifetime warranty with no questions asked. If it breaks or fails, they will fix it or replace it for free. T&K is your resource for bino harnesses, bow slings, and a lot more amazing gear. For more information about T&K hunting gear, go to tnkhunting.com or search for them on Facebook and Instagram. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Freedom on and stay soulful. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I am really excited about this toy drive that we are putting on here with Washington Backcountry and the Soulful Hunter Podcast. What we are doing is collecting money to then donate to Seattle Children's Hospital so that they can buy the toys. Because of coronavirus this year, they are not accepting direct toy donations, and we are unable to have our social event like we have in years past. So there is a link in the show notes. There's also a link in our social media profiles, and you can go to our website to donate as well. It is a GoFundMe account for Seattle Children's Hospital Toy Drive. We have a goal of $25,000, which is incredible. There's also going to be incredible no matter how much money we raise. We are just shy of $3,000. This fundraiser ends December 11th, and anything that you can give is going to be a blessing. Remember, you can't outgive good, and also one cool thing is that even if you can't give, if you can share the link with your social networks, that would be super beneficial in helping the kids at Seattle Children's Hospital. Thank you so much for tuning in this episode. I'm Johnny Mack. Be blessed, everybody. Have a great day and stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm Johnny Mack, and today I'm joined by a wonderful guest, Justin Spruiell, who is, well, he is a person who has dedicated his life to this country and now to the state of Washington and all different things that's happening here. And he's someone who was reached out. He's a listener of the podcast and reached out and wanted to just chat. And I was like, dude, I need to hear this guy's story. And diving into this conversation with him, I wanted everyone to hear this story because it's very powerful. It's impactful. It is something that is inspiring. And, you can't outgive good, and you hear me talk about that all the time on this podcast. And so today, welcoming Justin to the podcast, and we're going to dive into his story and what he believes. And I think it's very poignant and something that everyone should really take into heart. I always talk about on this podcast that inward reflection leads to outward correction, and it's very important and true, and I truly believe that. So, Justin, thank you so much for coming on and joining us.
Thanks for having me, Johnny. Yeah, I'm excited to get to talk with you a little bit more and share this kind of journey that I've been on.
Heck yeah, I can't wait. Listeners, you're in for a good one. And when I heard Justin's story, I was like, okay, I'm inspired. And it really put me in check even more than everyone needs to be held accountable, and it was really nice to hear Justin's story. So Justin, tell everyone who you are, your background, what you currently do, and then we'll dive into everything relevant.
Yes, absolutely. So, yes, as I said, I'm Justin Spruiell. I spent 8 years in the military, bounced around. I spent 23 years of my life living in Texas. And once I joined the military, they shipped me off. I went to Germany and got to experience everything they had over there and worked with a few people to actually open up access for American soldiers to start fishing overseas and fishing into some clubs, doing some restoration projects, removing invasive species like crawdads and rainbow trout, which was a ton of fun. And I just loved getting outdoors. And after a few years, I came to Washington and I was stationed here at JBLM and decided I didn't want to leave. I loved everything that Washington had to offer. I wasn't used to public lands and I was able to get out and go hunting and hiking and BLM lands and everything else. And I loved it. And so the Army tried to get me to leave and send me to Texas. And I told them no, which they don't like to hear. And since the Army doesn't like to hear no, I got out. And as you said, I dedicated my life. I want to be here. I want everybody to really experience what I've gotten to experience. I grew up hunting, I grew up fishing. I'm learning a new beast that is Washington. I had some great people who took me out while I was in the military here, pheasant hunts and everything else. And I just want to share it. So I've really dug into big game hunting in Washington over the last few years. This year I've set a goal. My New Year's resolution was to take one new person out hunting. And that's what I wanted to do. And I did that. Somebody had reached out, had asked me a question about turkey hunting, and I gave him an answer, took them out, got him out. Then after that, it was a veteran. He wanted to go and wanted to start doing it. So I took him out, got him out on a bear hunt with me. He went out opening day. We didn't end up getting a bear, but he got to see his first elk. He got to see deer. We got to go over tracking. We got to go over how to search for signs. And then I got him set up to go on his first turkey hunt. So he went out with somebody else over on Eastern Washington for a turkey hunt. Followed that up. I was able to get him then on to a duck hunt, and he's hooked. Now he wants to do, I did an early, just a nice easy day hunt with him, and now he's doing backcountry hunts, and he bought himself a little bivy sack, and he's really pushing it. And so I was at the point, I was like, great, I met my goal. I did what I wanted. I focused on myself. I, you know, did my deer hunt, did my elk hunts, and there was somebody who had reached out and was having a little bit of issues. And I started to talk to them, and they had never hunted before, another brand new hunter. I didn't really have anything planned. And your podcast with Will came out, and I was driving around. I was listening to it, and I was like, well, maybe I'm not the person. I haven't gotten a big game animal in Washington, and I wasn't really sure if I was the person to really help this individual out. It was starting up on modern rifle. He wanted to start hunting deer at some point. And after talking to him and finding out his story, and he was having some issues and wasn't able to get anybody to help him, I decided that was my role. Your podcast came at the perfect time a couple of weeks ago to get me out there and invite him out. I got him out on Saturday on a bear hunt. Didn't see anything, but we went over everything. He learned a lot, and now he's went ahead. He's bought his duck stamp. He's went ahead, purchased the guns. He's going out duck hunting. He went out grouse hunting. Like, I've got this guy hooked now, and that's great. I've got somebody who's never been out on public lands, never been hunting, and now he's out there. He's doing it. He's learning. He's trying to find more mentors. So
I love
that's
it.
kind of the short and sweet story.
I love it. So, Will Weber, if you're listening to this podcast, man, really proud of you, because what you did by getting vulnerable on an episode and reaching out and saying that you wanted to learn how to hunt, you've now inspired other people and you're impacting lives. And so the ripple effect is real. I talk about it. It only takes a spark to start a fire, and all of a sudden that fire is spreading from soul to soul. And it is about giving other people opportunity in which they have not had, and presenting people. We're educators. We're educating people, inspiring them so that they can pursue passions that are going to impact their lives and their community around them. So I love it. One of the things that, Justin, your story stood out to me is, here you are talking about how you had self-doubt. You were a dude who had no issue with taking people out, but at the same time, and you chose to do it. This was something you put on yourself. And at the same time, you didn't feel like, you're like, well, I haven't killed a big game animal here in the state of Washington. Maybe I'm not the right person, but you did it anyways. And I truly believe that that's not going to go to waste. That's, and I always refer to a good book on this podcast, and it says, don't cast your pearls to swine. I
Mhm.
don't believe that you're going to be casting your pearls to swine when you are truly giving from your heart. And for those of you who don't understand what I'm talking about, the point is that you wouldn't want to take some prized possession and go toss it in the mud, toss it in the slop, get it all nasty and waste its valuable, precious beauty of which it is. The thing is about that is that when you are investing your time into another human being, it's not wasted. Not every mentored hunt is a enjoyable one. Maybe it's not the perfect one. Maybe you take somebody out and you're like, you know what? I hope you learned something, but I might try to connect you with someone else, or because at the end of the day, being a school teacher, one of my I had a great college professor. My college professor, he said, as a school teacher, he's like, all right, listen, there are going to be some students that you are just allergic to. And
Yes.
I'm like, okay. He's like, no, no, understand this. He goes, there's going to be just some people that you are allergic to. Doesn't matter how hard you try or how much effort you put in. There are going to be times in which you just don't mesh with people. And I wanted to talk a little bit about your experiences, about you being a mentor and putting yourself out there and how you connected with people. And what are some of the things that you found helpful when it comes to mentoring people? Are you putting them through any type of a mental checklist, a
Well,
physical checklist, or like what are you
absolutely.
doing that is helping it so that you enjoy your time with them and you don't feel like, ah, dang it, I wasted a day of my
Well,
vacation or whatever,
mhm.
because these are issues that always arise when we talk about mentorship.
Well, Johnny, I think the big thing, and this is where we kind of vibe a little bit. So I began my academic career after high school, going into teaching. I did
Nice.
substitute teaching for a long time afterwards, and I took all of those things that I learned in teaching, and I took them into the military. So I went from being a teacher, mentoring mostly middle school to elementary school, and then you go into the military. I'm going in as an older person, um, and you just get put in those because you're older. If you're a little bit more mature, you're going to put in those leadership positions. You're going to have people looking up to you. You're going to be talking to them, and you've got somebody who's 18, 19, just now joining, and you're trying to teach them something. And so I took a lot of those principles that I had learned from my education, then through all of my leadership courses through the military, everything I've trained, how I've done it. And I decided, when I've got this person, I'm going to teach them. Like, how would I teach them? Now I've got two sons. I teach them all the time. We go hiking all the time. They know they can spot game trails. They can find tracks. They can find rubs. It's what we do. It's how we spend our time. So it's a little bit different. But what we did is I decided my hunt very specific. I had it in mind. This was opening day bear. So for the first one, I've got a spot. I wanted to make sure that I could give them something they could replicate. I needed to give them an area. So, in order to cut through any of the red tape, I took them to an area that didn't require a pass. And so, there, now they don't have to think about, do I need the federal pass or a state pass or a wildlife pass? I found an area I could give them that they could just drive out there. My next step is they don't know anything. Either of them had never hunted before. So I took them step by step. We talked about gear throughout. The part of the big thing is mentorship. And it's not just the taking them out hunting, it's about pushing afterwards and talking to them before, making sure that they're doing their hunter's education, making sure they're getting the right licenses, talking about gear, showing them my gear, finding places for them. I shoot them deals all the time. And when we went out there, I knew, really, for me, there's kind of three ways to hunt in Western Washington, anyways. And that's what I wanted to walk them through. So I took them to this area. We hiked out early in the morning. It's an easy day hunt, so that way they can kind of do their have their afternoon off. And what we did is we ambushed hunt first. So I take them to a spot where I think the bear, of course, I've been tracking for months, and I kind of had it patterned, but just hadn't quite connected. But we went ahead and we did an ambush hunt. So we did a sit for a few hours. So they get that. They get to wake up with the woods. These are two people that have never done that. So they get to experience what all of us hunters have done, where we come in early in the morning and we get to hear the birds waking up. We get to see the sun coming over. We get to see as life shows up and the deer start moving. All those things that all of us out there love, they've never seen before. And that's to inspire that love and to get that out there to them. So from there, we sit for a little while. And then I decide I've kind of got a time period of how long we're going to sit. I then take them. And now that the lights come up, we start doing still hunting. So I move through and we start following game trails. I'm showing them food sources. I'm showing them what tracks look like. I'm showing them scat. I'm showing them rubs, how to find game trails, how to identify things. I'm teaching them how to use Onyx because I had them download Onyx before they showed up. Here, mark this spot on your Onyx. Let's learn how to mark locations. Let's learn how to identify who owns this land, where our land ends. And then we start walking through. We're still hunting. So moving slow, moving quiet, teaching them what to look for. Of course, hopefully, if we're seeing a few game, going to jump some, make it all the way through. And then I've got a spot where we're able to kind of that get high in glass. So I know this area really well. So from there, I'm able to take them to an outlook where we get to look out on a field and look down there, and we get to see just a wide open field. And we're going to go ahead and get our binoculars out, take a seat, start looking for animals, and that's where the heart to heart talk really happens. I start talking to them about what they learned, what they need to know, why I love it, what they can do, why it's important to them, why they wanted to start hunting. Of everybody who's been out there with a hunting partner and had those glassing opportunities, that's where the connections happen. And so that's what I like to do. I want to make sure, why are you here? What do you want to learn? What can I teach you? What do you need help? What's your next part? How's your family? Those real, I mean, even though this is, maybe the first time I've met you, that's when the real connections are going to happen. It doesn't matter who you are. You're going to connect to people right then and there. And so we do that, check a few trail cameras on the way out. And, typically I'm getting them out of there around noon. So they're able to get back to their families, digest what they've learned. And yeah, very easy there. And that's kind of what we do. And then I follow up. And that's the biggest thing to me with mentorship is the follow up. I want to make sure I'm getting them on another hunt, getting them out there. I'm showing them pictures of the animals that I'm seeing on trail cameras. If they think they're going to go to a certain area, I'll tell them what I know about it. I want to make sure they're out there, they're buying a pass, they're, giving back to conservation, giving back to the land, and getting out there and to enjoy it. So that's kind of the way that I think about it. I want to teach them. I want to teach them everything I know. Yes, it's hard. The good thing about it is it's a bear hunt. And, we've got a long season and it's a great time. And they're not usually interested in bears, so I'm not really giving away my spots. Everybody wants that deer. So, hey,
It's
I've got a,
It's
yep,
so odd. I mean, I was the person that when you think hunting, you think deer hunting. You don't really think any other type of animal. I ended up pursuing black bear because it was before school started and taking time off during the school year, especially at the beginning of the school year, is like super hard. And I was like, dude, bear opens August 1st. Sweet. I can actually hunt something with a dedicated amount of time rather than just being a weekend warrior. And so I just recently, this summer, I wrote an article for Bear Hunting Magazine that it's called Black Bears Gateway to the Backcountry. An adult onset hunter that shares tips for new hunters getting into the backcountry. And I think bears are like the biggest wasted opportunity that people do not target. I think you can learn so much about hunting bears.
absolutely. The great thing that I loved about it is I'm hunting bear on my off season. I've got a totally different area. I did muzzleloader deer and muzzleloader elk this year because I wanted a better season. I wanted a longer season. So I changed everything up. I'm muzzleloader hunting now, which was great for me. It got me out to scout earlier. I'm going to be muzzleloader deer hunting this area where we were hunting the bear. So I'm the bear is just great. It's outside of those normal ones. You're not giving anything up. Everybody, you want to, nobody wants to sit there and give up their good deer spots and their good elk spots. So I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about them coming back and shooting my bear or anything like that. I love bear. It's delicious. Had it quite a few times. Um, and yeah, it's just one, it's fun. And to me, I think bear hunting, I've had some really close calls with this. I'm hunting a very particular bear. We have 2 years of history now. It's a certain one in a small area. I've been within 20 yards of it. It's eaten for 45 minutes on the other side of a blackberry bush that I'm sitting on. And it's an intense feeling. And what was great, I think that first opening day was my best chance at a bear this year. And I've got this new hunter with me. And so we're on our sit. I'm where I think it's going to be. And lo and behold, we start hearing, I hear some movement. I'm like, okay, starts crashing through. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not a deer. There's not very many elk in this area. And then I hear it huffing. And then I hear it rolling logs. And I've got this brand new hunter with me. And I'm like, okay, well, I've got to make my way through this forest into an area of it that I haven't explored before. So it's like, okay, guess what? Here's what we're going to do. We waited for a little bit, hoping it was going to come down, and it didn't. We moved a little bit. We're waiting on the shot. What was great to hear him is when we got to that point where we were just sitting there glassing. Really nice. We had a 4x4 elk come by while we're glassing and blew his mind, and it changed his whole outlook. He wasn't sure how he was going to feel about bear. He was like, I didn't think I was going to like it. I was really worried. He's like, shooting a deer, shooting an elk, something different, but a bear, you're just like, they're cute and cuddly. He's like, but once I heard it and once it was moving and once I thought you were getting ready to shoot because we thought it was going to come in, he's like, I thought I was going to be like, no, don't shoot. But instead, it changed. He's like, I had this like bloodthirst. He's like, I just wanted you to shoot it. I wanted to see the harvest. I wanted to get to share this meat. He's like, that's all I wanted. He's like, that switch changed. And I told him, I was like, that's what I love. I love those moments right before you're going to get a shot. When you can hear them, when you can get them moving, and that little anticipation, your heart's racing and you're trying to calm yourself down. I could live in that moment forever. And it's my favorite. And that's, I guess, which is good. I don't get anything, so my season's longer. So I just get to go out there every time and get that moment over and over again. But to have him have that moment and really change his outlook on bear hunting was amazing for me. And it's a great opportunity and really can get some people going and gives you a great amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I would agree. I think, new hunters don't realize how short seasons are. When they're like, "Oh, I only have 2 weekends," you know, to go out
Yeah.
for deer, like, "Oh, okay." That's
Especially if you're from another state. I think that's the big thing is I was used to Texas and you buy your deer license and they give you 6 deer tags.
right.
And you're like, okay, well, I have 6 deer tags. They're just expecting me just to shoot them. And you've got bow season, muzzleloader season, rifle season, and you can use those tags at any time. You just have to be using the right weapon. It's so different from Washington. So I'm used to having months and months of season versus here it's you gotta pick. You got 1 week of elk, so you better make it count.
Right, totally. Do you find yourself reaching out for mentees more, or are they reaching out to you? And then the other thing is, do you prefer the person you mentor to have a tag in their pocket for what you're pursuing, or would you rather have them join you for your hunt?
So as far as finding them, I like the first one I took out this year was a coworker. He knew that I hunted and he had a question about shooting a turkey with a crossbow. He wanted to hunt turkey this year and he wanted to do it with a crossbow because he didn't want to have, his family was kind of iffy on guns. They have since changed their mind after he got on one hunt and loved it. Um, but
Isn't that just to cut you off for a second? Isn't
yeah,
that true about guns? Everyone is if you're not familiar with guns, they're the scariest thing in the world until you find out what they're meant for and how to use them, and then all of a sudden they're like, dude, this is great.
Well, absolutely, and he's a former military, and so he's used to handling firearms, no issues there, and that's who I've been taking out. I mostly connect with that military community, making sure that I can get some of those out there. I'm a big proponent of Project Healing Waters, and there's the Fallen Outdoors, and all kinds of great people that are here getting veterans and active duty out. And so we just talked, and he reached out to me, just had a question about, hey, can I shoot a turkey with a crossbow? I didn't know. So I found the Fish and Game. Dr. Google is your friend. And I just Googled turkey with a crossbow in Washington, and there's a whole pamphlet on how to hunt turkeys. So I emailed it over to him and said, here you go. Here's a pamphlet. Think about it. And just got to talking, and he's like, thanks so much for this. I had never been hunting. I want to go, and I think a turkey's the way to go. And I just kind of was like, well, why don't you've never been, turkey's not going to be for a little while. So why don't you come out on a bear hunt with me?
Mm-hmm.
Just come out here. I do make sure. So, and the other one I had this year, that the one that I was a little iffy on, it was a Facebook group, and he posted something asking a question, and I just offered a little bit of help, told him some areas, hey, you're in Washington. He's active duty military, been stationed here for a few years. I was just asking a simple question, and I knew he was kind of going to get blasted, and started talking to him back and forth, and turned out he just wanted to get in, knew nothing about hunting, and was looking for some advice where to go. And so I was like, great, let's do this. I wasn't planning anything. Of course, like you talked about, your podcast came along and gave me the gut check. If I'm going to do this, and I want to grow the sport, and I want to grow conservation champions, wildlife warriors, whatever alliterations you want to use, then I need to be out there, and I need to be doing this. I want to make sure they're committed. So I don't want them necessarily to have a tag of what we're hunting, because I want them to absorb everything they can. The first one, he did not have a tag, but I make sure I want them to have hunter safety. I want them to have committed in some way. I want to make sure they're serious. So taking hunter safety is one way to just say, great, you're serious. You've taken the time. Right now is the perfect time because it's all online.
Yep.
So if you're going to commit that time to take the course, great. Next step, talk to them about licenses. If we can get them one, both the individuals I took out, they had small game tags in their pockets. The first one, yep, absolutely.
Perfect.
First one, of course, there's nothing open. He left his crossbow in the truck, and I was like, great, we're going to hunt this. I'm going to teach you everything. The second person I took out recently this weekend, grouse is open. So I was like, great, you've got a shotgun, bring some shells. We talked about shells. He had to learn about shot size and everything else. So it was great that we got all this big lead up time to it for over the week. He was really excited. Hey, here's what type of shells to get. Let's do this. Why don't you go ahead and think about getting steel, just so that way you can use it for upland game, pheasant hunts, things like that you can do in the future. And got him on that. And so he was able to, definitely participate. He was soaking everything in, definitely learning as much as he could, but he was able to participate. If we saw a grouse while we were out there still hunting, guess what? Take it. We're gonna have some forest chicken tonight. But didn't end up seeing any, but that's exactly it. I want to make sure they've at least got hunter's ed, and that they put some skin in the game.
So what type of follow-up do you do with these hunters? You're saying you like to make sure that when you and I talked on the phone about this, you were saying that more often than not, people will like teach someone how to do something, but there's no follow-up. In the teaching world, that you can give a student a formative assessment to check their knowledge, and then you give them another formative assessment to check their knowledge, and eventually you end up with a summative. But then before you start the next school year, or before you start the next session of whatever, typically you start with a follow-up of what you already learned. So what are you doing with these new guys?
Well, one of the big things for me, I love public lands. That's the whole reason I stayed here. So the big thing is I'm always making sure that if some public lands issue comes up that maybe they don't know about, I'm just shooting them something. I want to make sure I connect with them at least once a week, see if they're getting out. I show them, of course, my harvest, what I'm after. I make sure that they're going out. If I see opportunities because they're both veterans, I'm in some of those veteran groups and hey, this is a opportunity for a hunt. I'm not going to sign up for it, but you should post up on Facebook and say that you're in. I shoot deals. The individual who wanted to go turkey hunting, I saw a sale 49% off, really good turkey calls that went to a good cause for type 1 diabetes. And so I said, hey, these are great calls. This is 49% off. Get you one. Here it is. Hey, I just want to reach out. I want to make sure that they are doing more, that they're able to get out. Hey, here's a group, sign this form, and they take veterans out duck hunting. So yeah. I got both of them signed up for that. Hey, you don't even need a shotgun. They'll provide you the shotgun. So go out, sign up for it, and get out there. And I just want to find them every opportunity I can.
Yep.
I also send them, so the individual who was grouse hunting, he was going out this weekend. And I said, okay, well, hey, you're going to go to that same spot. Don't go where we hunted. There's no grouse there. Like, just letting you know. I let him know when we started. I was like, I'd never seen a grouse in that spot, but I've scouted that area all over. It's 3,000 acres. So I shot him a few onyx waypoints.
Yeah.
Here you go. You're going out this weekend. Here's some onyx waypoints. Maybe they're no good. They're from last year. I mark all the grouse that I can. And so I was like, just start there. There you go. That gives you an idea of some places you can go.
Yeah.
So the follow-up to me is big because I want to make sure that they're continuing, that they're getting another license, that they're buying the right tags, and that they're getting out there and enjoying it and making sure that they come back next year.
Cool. I dig it. Now, what is it about public lands that captivates you so much? Like you're from Texas, right? And so there's barely any public land down there. But what is it that just is like, it hooks you?
Well, and you're exactly right. 23 years, born and raised, generations upon generations of Texans. Actually, the movie Lonesome Dove, so sure in book, based upon my family. Actually, we've been Texas deep for a very, very long time. Yep. So the fact that I left and never came back was a huge deal. But I started out, I went to Germany and I started learning their system, and they've got an interesting national forest system. Got really interested in the ways that over there, theirs are mostly run by clubs. And so local individuals run the river systems, run the forest systems. And it's just a group of people who take care of it. You can all go out there, you park and you just walk around, or if you're fishing, you find the club president. But it's kind of open. I'd never seen it. And when I came back to America, got here, and just, of course, I did a little bit around. I got to experience some state land, but I think the big part for me is we did a trip down to Colorado and we did dispersed camping the entire way. So me, my wife, and a 6-month-old baby dispersed camping through grizzly country, all over the BLM land in Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, outside of Yellowstone, on up the glacier. And I just fell in love. I love fly fishing. So we went to all kinds of just amazing locations. And because we were dispersed camping, we got to do it for free. Mm-hmm. So we're camping for free up on top of some beautiful mountain overlooking the Grand Tetons. And the next morning I'm going to wake up and I'm going to catch a trout in this small pond. I'm going to avoid a bison on our drive out. And it just captivated me. And I said, this is what I care about. This is what I want. I never want to leave this. I go to Montana at least once a year. We hit Colorado. And it was my thing. It was my calling. And I wanted to make sure that everyone experienced it. We all pay taxes. You're all here. It's open to everyone. And the fact is, there's too many people that just either don't know about it or don't get out there to experience it. And that's what I wanted for them. I wanted to say, hey, you can get out there. You can do this. This is your land. You own this.
Yeah.
Just live it.
I think it's really, really weird that public education, and I'm a part of the system, so I'm a part of the problem. However, I'm also doing my part as to bringing in new knowledge to to my community. I don't understand why gun safety is not taught in schools. Hunter safety is taught is it's taught in like the Midwest. It's not taught out here. I don't understand why public lands are not taught, the concept of public lands. I also don't understand why finances aren't taught in school. Like there's a lot of like
Yep.
I'm a school teacher and I believe that public education is broken and failing because they're so caught up in testing that they're not teaching like directly to the needs of what is going to enhance society. If everyone got outdoors and got a little bit of nature in their life, they'd be a healthier person. So why aren't we teaching about public lands? I used to work at REI all the way through my 20s and I still didn't really have a good grasp of what public lands were until I got into hunting. I fished all my life, I backpacked all my life, I experienced public lands, and yet I had no idea what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. You're exactly right. I mean, we aren't talking about public lands, the public trust, why it is that we have these. We covered, at least in my school, we covered a little bit the land grant colleges, but you're not taught that not only at the same time that we're doing these land grant colleges, we're also giving lands just to the state to do what they want. Um, and yeah, it's just not there. And we need people, yeah, outdoors experiencing. You saw what happened when when the COVID shutdown happened in Washington. Everyone flocked to the outdoors, and it's great. But they need to spread it out a little bit. People knew of the very few. Oh, this is a great hike. Well, you know what? You could also go 10 minutes down the road and go to a trailhead that's not marked, and you could just hike up there, and there's not going to be a soul around. I love Mount Rainier. I've got some great hikes in Mount Rainier, and you can go on the crowded, like packed full day, and everybody's up there at Paradise. But you drive a little bit further, and I can get you into some beautiful alpine lakes, and you're going to see three people.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's there. We're just not teaching it. We're not teaching what, oh, you're exactly right, what a lot of this country was founded on. Those ideals of the public trust are huge. I'm actually reading a book right now, Inherit the Hunt by Jim Prosowitz. And he starts out discussing the differences in the American system and the UK system and why it was important to our forefathers to do it this way, to make sure that the game was held in the public trust and held by people instead of being held by the government or held by title owners. That's why the state technically owns the wildlife. Even if they're on your property, you don't own them. And that's not how it is in other countries. And if more people knew that's not our war for independence wasn't just fought, you know, for taxation without representation. There was a lot of other ideals surrounding it, and it's just not something that's reached out as much as it should be.
Yeah. Well, I'm a proponent and I want to get the movement going. Kind of waiting to see how this election happens with our boy Culp. Hopefully he gets in there. And I've never really talked politics on this podcast before, but being a hunter and a fisherman and outdoorsman that he is, I'm a big supporter of that. But with that being said, is that hunting and fishing and trapping, because I don't want to, the listeners, don't forget about trapping, which I just got my trapper's license because I believe that is something that is a skill set, once again, that people should know how to do. And you can do it all online right now, so you might as well take advantage of it. So I've gotten a couple of my buddies now to get their trapper's license. I just got my first bobcat cage this week from a buddy, and I'm super excited to go out there.
I used to trap in Texas all the time. It's a little bit different there. And yeah, I actually used to trap wild hogs, and we would trap them on, this is back before the wild hog industry blew up. We would trap them on, before people would pay money to go shoot hogs.
Uh-huh.
But we would go and you catch 5 or 6 of them in a trap all together, and then you drive a little cattle trailer right up to it, one of the kids would get on top of the trap. So that way we're able to pull the trap open. One kid would get on top of the trailer. I have three brothers.
Yeah.
And then one of us would climb on top of the trailer so we can slam the door down. And one of us is in the back of the truck to get the bores to charge you. And everybody lifts the gates at the same time. Somebody sticks their tongue out and makes noises. As soon as all the pigs run in, person in the trailer slams the door shut. Tons of fun. Trapping is definitely something. And the big thing here, one of the other ones with bear hunting to me, and you obviously you wrote for Bear Hunting Magazine, Clay Newcomb talks about it, of guarding the gate. And hunting and fishing and trapping rights, we're going to lose them death by 1,000 cuts. It's all small little things. Trapping's an easy one for people to leave. People forget about trapping, and it's an easy one to lose. We've already lost little bits of it throughout Washington. And bear hunting is one of those. I love the way Clay talks about it. Guarding the gate, you're making sure it's one of those hunting. Bear hunting is one that not everybody looks at it the same as deer hunting and elk hunting. So it's one that's easy to remove and it's easy for people to get rid of because they think it. And the more people we can get out doing those lesser known types of hunting or outdoor recreation, the better, because that's how we can keep our outdoor tradition.
Totally. Well, so one of the things I was going to say is that hunting, fishing, and trapping are written into certain states' constitutions, like life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and fishing, hunting, and trapping. State of Washington is not one of those states, and that's one of the where I was going to with the political side of it. Is I want to see our sportsmen in this state take a stand, be vocal, and be like, hey, hunting, fishing, and trapping needs to be a part of our state constitution. And I don't understand, especially with the heritage of fishing here in Washington, where fishermen aren't just all over that. So that's obviously another podcast at some point, but just to get that plugged into people's minds, be like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that was possible. Yes, if life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is written within the Declaration of Independence and is a part of our founding and heritage in this nation, then the life, the ability to give yourself life by procuring your own food, liberty, doing it how you want to do it, whether it's fishing, hunting, or trapping, and then pursuit of happiness, because when we're out in nature, we're going to get blessed and become a more healthier and happier and better contributor to society through that. So it really answers all those, and yet we're always playing defense and having to fight off the wolves, quote unquote, rather than people being more like, okay, we need to protect this even if I don't do it. The thing is, I think in this nation is so many people are like, if you don't think like me, what you think is not valid. So I don't hunt, I don't fish, therefore it's not valid. It doesn't count.
The worst part is you have the same thinking. I feel like, and I've observed, so this is anecdotal on my own, you have the same thing in the hunting and fishing community. You don't hunt like me. You don't hunt for the same species I do. You're not right.
Yeah.
You don't hunt in the same manner I do. You're not right. I'm a fly fishing purist. You bobber dog for salmon. You're not right.
Yeah. Bow hunter, rifle hunters, like public land, private land, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, why are we so judgmental? Why are we shaking our finger at people? Why are we causing divide more rather than welcoming with open arms? And
absolutely,
I've shared on a podcast with, I think it was the Hunt Backcountry podcast, where I was a guest on, and I was talking about, you may not like seeing a hillside full of orange, but the athlete in me says competition breeds success. And yeah, I experienced this last weekend the most amount of hunters in one location I've ever experienced, which is not a whole lot of years of experience on that one. However, I really believe that coronavirus is the best thing that's ever happened to hunting and fishing in the outdoors.
100%.
And I'm seeing all these people, and I'm like, good for them. About time. About time. It's, the coronavirus thing is the quintessential reset on society to cause people to surround themselves with their family and to
Yep.
find out what it is that is important to them. And money can get in the way of that, busyness can get in the way of that, and so when I hate to say the people who have been affected negatively because of jobs and all that, but when you are forced to look inside yourself and forced to rely upon your community, all of a sudden life changes and you can get right back on a better track if you weren't
Yep.
on a good one in the first place.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why the person I took out this weekend, I told you we sit on that mountain overlooking this beautiful meadow, overlooking what I call the wildflower trail because it's full of sweet peas during the early summer. And we're talking, and I'm like, well, why do you want to get involved? And COVID made it to where he has been stuck inside. He's not getting to connect. He's not going to get to do a lot of his other hobbies. And basically he's stuck with his family, and not stuck, but he's spending more time with them. And they finally, his wife turned to him and said, you need a hobby. You need to find something that you're going to enjoy and you want to do. And he's like, well, can I start hunting? And that's exactly why he wanted to get out there. He had never done it before. It's something that he always wanted to do. And this gave him that opportunity. There's nothing else getting in the way because nothing else is open. So this was the perfect chance for him to get out there.
Yep.
And, and luckily he was vulnerable enough to put himself out there and ask some questions and ask for mentorship and help. And
all right, so I got a couple questions for you before we wrap this podcast up real quick.
absolutely.
What would you say to the person who doesn't have a mentor, but and I know that hunting is going to change their life? Do they give up because they don't have a mentor? Or what do you say to them?
Here's exactly what I'm going to say. I haven't is you can get out there yourself.
Yep.
There is YouTube videos, there's everything, but reach out. Everything's online. As I said before, Dr. Google is your friend. You can learn how to use Onyx. You can listen to podcasts. Yeah, you're going to have to go beat feet. And that's what I told this person. You're going to have to get out there. You can find the areas, you can find some public land to get out to, but you're going to have to do the scouting yourself. You want to find grouse, go and hit the streets. And you know what? As you're walking through, you're going to see this giant chicken fly up out of nowhere. It's going to fly in the tree above you, and it's going to stay there. And there you go. There's dinner tonight. So just get out there. That's the biggest thing. But you can do the research. You can find out. And, if necessary, make yourself vulnerable and don't turn down an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's absolutely it. If somebody's willing to offer you help, don't turn down an opportunity.
The one thing I'd really like to add to that is so often and I get hit up a lot from new hunters. Hey, can you help me out here? Hey, do you know any good spots here? Hey, I'm new to hunting. I haven't blah blah blah. And the list goes on. My thing to new hunters is when you're starting out new, get somebody else that starts out new, and you guys learn together because that will your best thing to mentor yourself is to challenge yourself based off your buddy, because the conversations that you have is only going to make you better.
Absolutely. That's a huge one. I mean, this was my first year elk hunting. And not only was it my first year elk hunting, it was my first year elk hunting with a muzzleloader. So it's a huge difference. Of course, here in Washington, we're open sites. I know I've got to get close. I've put in the work, and I've been comparing trail cam footage with my father-in-law who's down in Colorado. So I'm seeing what he's seeing. We're talking about it. And, he's, of course, a lot more experience there. But you're exactly right. It's somebody I can compare with. I can tell them how close I got and what it was that I smelled them, that they came in 8 minutes after I left my stand or my little area this time. And yeah, absolutely. I think that's a huge one. If you can find somebody else new, you've got somebody to talk to and go out with you and learn.
Yeah. And to add on that, I would say the excitement is there. You might not get the excitement from an experienced hunter the way a new hunter has. And with that, you also, one of the things about getting mentored by experienced hunters is that they don't remember what it was like to be new. And so they assume that you just know things. So when you can really break it down, I had somebody, if you guys are listening to my podcast, thanks for the article. I had someone write a Waterfowl 101 article for the website, and they sent in their first draft of it. And I was like, this is great, but you're missing a lot of the aspects of what that like a new person's going to read. They're like, well, yeah, but you can get that anywhere on the website or on the internet. And I was like, yeah, but you don't understand. This article is that article. So I don't care if you can get it anywhere else. You need to deliver that information. And they thought about it and they're like, man, I kind of forgot about that. You're right. That's that's good. And so don't think that hunting is impossible because you don't have a mentor. Don't think hunting is impossible because you don't have anyone to go with or anyone to talk with. Maybe what you need in your life is to work on your own courage and to be alone. And being in that position is going to only make you a better person in the outcome. And then once you conquer that, then the animals will come.
Absolutely. Be alone with your own thoughts, deal with yourself, and also get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And you learn a lot out of doing that and being out there.
Absolutely. Justin, thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing who you are and why you do it. I really appreciate it. If anyone is listening to this podcast and wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
The best way, if you want to just look me up, it's going to be on Instagram. I do a lot of if you follow me on Instagram, it's going to be just a ton of terrible looking flies that I will do some orders and tie up. But JTS_flybox FLYBOX on Instagram.
Okay, awesome.
And that is absolutely the best way. Contact me. It's open. Send me a message. I will talk to you about hunting. I will talk to you about fishing. Or of course, reach out to Johnny Mack and I have no problem talking to anybody. And Johnny, I'm telling you right now, if anybody says that they need some information or just want somebody to talk to, hey, I'm here. Any of you veterans listening, you can contact me anytime. I'll answer the phone.
It's really nice to hear that because there's so many times that I get DMs or I get emails from my website, and the answers to their questions are more often easier said over a conversation rather than typed out. So I totally get that. Guys, make sure if you have any questions as to how to mentor or being a mentor or learning how to hunt, reach out to Justin. He is a person who, on his own accord, is dedicated to making sure that hunting lasts for generations to come. And his big thing is the public lands and making sure that we take care of them and we have them to last for generations. So, Justin, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast of the Soulful Hunter. You, my man, are a soulful hunter, and you're going to be blessed when you get out and go afield because you can't outgive good. And I truly, truly believe in that, and I stand upon that. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Johnny. I love it.
I love it. All right, listeners, go check out Justin on Instagram. Send him a message. Let him know what you thought of this episode. As always, everybody, don't forget to bring your American flag with you when you're heading out into the wild and use the hashtag Patriots in the Wild. Take a picture of yourself, whether it's with the animal, whether it's on the highest peak, in the deepest, darkest forest, whatever it is. Carry your American flag with you. Share that patriot, that American pride, and just don't forget to freedom on. And as always, everybody, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.